So, good morning. I'm Jennifer Steck. I'm on the leadership team for Artburst Studios, and we are so excited you're here at one of our Artburst Live interview segments. And gosh, this month we have Jeanne Oliver. And gosh, what can I say about Jeanne? I mean, all of you know who I'm talking about too. It was pre-COVID. I don't even remember the year, but I had kind of interacted with Jeanne a bit on all of the social media and getting to know her that way. And then she sent out notification that she was going to be hosting a class taught by Sarah Birch at her studio in Castle Rock, Colorado. Now, I'm pretty lucky because I live about half an hour from there, but I just couldn't miss it. I was so excited about meeting Sarah, learning from Sarah. I knew a number of the artists who were attending, and I knew Jeanne was hosting it, but Jeanne and I had never had the opportunity to meet before. And one of the highlights, there were several, but one of the highlights of being involved in this workshop was meeting Jeanne and her family, and just the open arms and the welcome atmosphere. It just created a place and a space, I think, for me to feel comfortable just being me and just inspired and creative. So, Jeanne, welcome. I'm so excited you're here.
Thank you so much. What a fun way to start a Saturday morning.
Well, so true, so
Yeah.
true. It's a great way to get inspired and for all of us kindred spirits to be
Yeah.
together. So I'm just going to go ahead and start so that we can get in hearing from you. So can you tell us about yourself?
Okay. Well, I'm a working artist. I'm also an author. I do business coaching, and we have a curriculum that I wrote to help other people build their own business. And then I think when I just think of really who I am, I'm just this, I'm just an adult version of like that kid, that creative kid that went down rabbit holes all the time with creativity. And I love to write and to paint and to sculpt and to take other people with me. And I'm a mom and married, and that's kind of me in a nutshell.
So I love hearing about that. I think when you talk about still being that creative kid, um, I think of all the quotes that are out there that we're all as artists trying to get back to being that kid. What did you do as a child that kind of built up to that creativity?
I always think back to the time of like growing up, and when I think of that time, so I sports were really encouraged in my family. And so I played sports and I had to work really hard so I was co-captain of volleyball or basketball or something like that. But I had to work really hard at it. My sister, who would still be like captains or co-captains of stuff, for her it was easy like breathing. I remember just hours after hours, like getting my layup right outside when it's dark and the lights on the garage, and I'm just working on that layup. Because for me, that excuse me, that just like I had to really work hard to be really okay at it. And then something that my sister was just really good at naturally. She didn't, I mean, she practiced, but it came easier for her. For me, that was the arts. For me, that was gathering neighborhood kids and teaching them. You guys, I taught them a sewing class, and we took fabric and staplers to create bags. I wouldn't say it was a good class, but I was just always gathering people, or we had a big old carriage house barn garage, and upstairs was a loft. And so my brother and sister and I would put on plays, and I was always like I was just a dreamer. I was in my head a lot. I would be under the trees writing, or I would be creating. All my extra money was spent at Ben Franklin. Does anybody remember like Ben Franklin, and that you could buy like raw wood stuff and paint it? And I was just always making and creating. And even in junior high and high school, just always like but it took a turn of, I started doing fashion. So I started to always be sketching clothing instead, very inspired by the styles from the 40s and the 50s. And that's what I was most drawn to at the time. That was kind of me as a kid. And it was always trying to fit myself into maybe these other areas that had the applause of other people around me, but my heart was always truly in the arts.
And so as you as you grew up and as you went through teens and then started into what comes next for you, how did that creativity transition at that point?
Well, it's kind of it was a really pivotal time because I talked to my high school guidance counselor and I had really wanted to go to design school in Chicago. And at the time I was from a town of 3,500, so small rural town surrounded by cornfields and barns and silos and hardworking people, but definitely that probably sounded very odd to them. Like you're talking, I mean, I'm 52 years old. And so you have to think like here at 17, I'm saying I want to go to Chicago and want to go to design school. And that probably just wasn't in maybe even their reality of what you did when you graduated. I mean, yes, they went to college and things like that, but so my guidance counselor actually said, that's really hard to get into, and I think you should choose something else. But I was also having that echoed at home. My father was a realtor, he's a businessman, he was an entrepreneur, saying, like, what about business school? And so at that time, just by these two men like saying that, and I'm 17, and I thought they were telling me that I wasn't good enough. I thought they were actually being kind to me and they were trying to be nice and say, hey, you just don't have what it takes, kid, and you should try something that's safer. And when I say that I put it down, I mean I put it down, that I sometimes can't even wrap my head around it after all these years. I went to college and I was a history major and a psych major. And I mean, I didn't take a photography class. I didn't take a pottery class. I didn't take a sketching class. I truly put it all the way down. And excuse me, my creativity would show up in maybe how I would dress or maybe how I would decorate my spaces. But when it came to anything with the fine arts, I really put it all the way down. And there was definitely a season of feeling lost, but trying to do what I thought other people wanted me to do. And I wish, and I did not get this until I was an adult, that if I would have said, Dad, no, absolutely, I'm not going to business school. I'm going to go to art school and that's what I want. I would have gone to art school. Like there was, like no one was going to say, no way, you were not going to like help you achieve that. But in my mind, I thought that was a no. And them saying those things, it probably was true. It is hard, but so is business. And so is being an entrepreneur. And so is being a dentist. And so is being almost anything. It's hard work. And I took their words as being like I told you, like about me. And I think it was just about, it was their mindsets. It was their reality. It was what they thought could be accomplished. And so it's really made me with other people, also with my own kids, to really to let people, let your backup plan, let your plan B actually be plan B. Let's not start off with plan B. Do you love all the turkeys coming?
Yeah, I was gonna. You were going along. I went to tell everyone, but you're. I mean, you're sharing such valuable information. So tell us about the turkeys, and then we'll go back.
Well, on our new property, our other property, we had turkeys too, but here their main thoroughfare is like up the steps, past here. They go into our backyard. And so you may see that, you may see a bear, you may see deer. I don't know what you're gonna see, so.
I love that. I love that. You know, it's when I've talked to artists in previous interviews, that seems to have happened a lot.
Mhm.
You know, somebody says something, and whether they meant it that way or not, it really shut that particular person down. And it takes years for them to get back to where they are. So how did going to college and all of that, when did things start transitioning over into more of a creative life?
Really, it's at least for my story, I think so many times people might have thought that if I'm a mom, maybe I can't do some of these other things I've dreamed about doing. And for my story, it's by being a mom, it brought me back to who I was. So being a mom and having that joy of creating with them and playing with them, and it brought and having that time, I just felt like it was a very natural unfolding of who I always was and who I kind of shoved away. So you would still see it in, once again, how I made our home or how I gathered people or how we had a party or things like that. But it was, and I always think it's so funny. It's why I love to say start where you are with what you have, no matter like what it is, because for me, I was super pregnant with Jack. I was 44 weeks pregnant. For real, they let me go to 44 weeks with Jack. And I was bored because I stopped working at 40 weeks. And then still there was another 4 weeks that I didn't have anything to do really. And you're so huge, you don't feel like doing much. And my neighbor had just started selling Creative Memories. So raise your hand if you remember Creative Memories. And so I bought the baby book and the stickers and like all the things. And that really is a part of what, so once he was born, during nap times or in the evenings, I was having the most fun, like with the stickers and all the stuff and the papers and putting these things together. So that's why I've always teased that scrapbooking was like the gateway drug back to like all of the thousands of dollars I've spent since then on art supplies. And but it was this reminder that I love to make, that I love to make something. And so that really was the start, and it really just grew from there. So poor Ben, once I learned that I could make, because I think I told myself too, oh, I can spend the money on this or I can do this if it has to do for Ben, I mean, for the kids, like for Jack and for Maddie and for our family. And I'm creating memories for them and I'm all these things. And that's fine. But let's just be honest that we make for us.
Yeah.
Like first and foremost, it's gonna have benefits for other people, but first and foremost, let's just admit, oh, I'm an artist. I'm a maker. I love to make. It brings me joy, and this is how I'm going to choose to use those gifts right now. If it's making an album or if it's, throwing a party. And so at the point where I was like years later, as a mom, and I had Jack and Maddie and then Ben, when I started to do other things, when I started to create more with paint and I started to expand what I was doing, I never scrapbooked again. And poor Ben still doesn't have a baby book, but I think that was so key for me is to say like, oh no, I'm an artist. I'm a creator. I'm a creative person. And I don't have to use an excuse to make. I don't have to say I'm doing this for somebody else. I can do this just for me. And I'm worthy of that. And my gifts are worthy of that.
Lucy Farmer commented, haha, me too, as far as the scrapbook
Oh,
creative memory stuff goes.
you guys, they're so bad now when you look back. Yeah. The stickers are the best.
They are. Now, then when did it become a business and how did it become a business?
it became a business because so that scrapbooking start ended up there was definitely a time in the early 2000s where scrapbook paper got amazing. I mean, scrapbook paper, you had fabric designers that were also designing papers. So you would have like Amy Butler. She would have her own line of scrapbook papers. So she made beautiful fabrics, but also papers. So I started taking those scrapbook papers and altering composition notebooks, wooden letters, and wooden frames with scrapbook papers. And shops started, I started selling them on Etsy. I had local shops that wanted to carry them. And then I had other shops from around the United States want to carry them. And guys, it was scrapbook paper, it was glue, and one of those sticky machines to stick things on. It was letters from Michaels and wooden frames with little pegs on the back from Michaels. And that's really what started the business.
That's amazing. You know,
Mm-hmm.
how one step leads to another and leads
Yeah.
to another. And now, how would you describe your business today?
I feel like it has like all these beautiful aspects of who I've always been, and that I get to take my family along on most of it too. That's probably my favorite. Our life and our business is very intertwined, and so there's an ebb and flow to our life that's probably very different than how I grew up with a father that was an entrepreneur, but he went away to his offices. And I think today it's just this matchup, like matchup of I love history. So even I mean, I went to college for history. I really did love history. It just wasn't the truest part of me, right? And so for me, I love art history. I love books. I love an excuse to buy more books. And so like if I'm going to do a studying under the masters, or I'm going to do certain things, I get to read, I get to study. I love to study. I love to do research in those ways, that I get to have a creative space that I get to make and to push myself to grow as an artist, to you know, that I'm constantly, because of this community, I'm constantly in a place where I'm very externally motivated. And I would like to say that I'm this amazingly internally motivated person, but really most things that we do that I do are because I'm externally motivated. I like, you know, I want to be able to take our kids on a trip, or I want to be able to do this for my family, or I want something to happen with our home, or I want to be able to offer something to our customers, and I figure out how to do that. And so I feel like during this whole journey, I've been able to grow as an artist, but then I've been able to take like just so many along with me. And so that feels like an incredible journey together. And so I have some things online, some things in person. I feel like you need both. I think it's really important to, you know, and sometimes we, at one point in our last house, we had live workshops, and so I feel like it's a mashup, but I feel like it's still evolving, and I know for sure it's evolving right now.
Your life is filled with beauty at so many different levels and almost in some different directions. How have you created that and continue to build on that?
It's such a good question, and it's even something I don't even think I could have answered you this the way I'm going to now, except maybe like 3 summers ago. I was in Lake Como, and a woman that I knew like came up to me, and she was there for something else, and she knew me, and I hadn't met her, and I was talking to her for the first time, and she said something to me that I hadn't really thought about. And she said, I just loved watching you all these years, and loved watching what you were creating. And then she said, you've created a lifestyle. And then after she said that, I had a few more people over the next month say that to me. And the thing is, we didn't mean to do that. We did and we didn't. I mean, I wasn't out to like, I'm going to create a lifestyle, you know. But what it comes down to is a lot of intention, a lot of sacrifice. But it's kind of like when I'm teaching creatively made business or I'm doing business consulting with people, I always say, like, I can't help you unless you tell me how you want your life to look and feel. So everything about our life truly is based upon how do I want our life to look and feel? How does Kelly want our life to look and feel? When the kids were younger, we would have family meetings and say, like, what do you guys want? Like, how do you want our life to look and feel? And we would make decisions based upon that. And I would like to go one step farther in that is that how do you feel when you're doing certain things? For example, like we spent like 5 weeks this last summer in Italy, along Lake Como. And some people might just like, oh my gosh, like, how could you even do that? Who spends 5 weeks? Well, we spend it in one place. We're not going all over the country. We have one place we love to go. We might do some little trips. I can stay in an apartment in Italy from 5 weeks for the same price of 1 week on the Oregon coast.
Wow.
So it's a very difference there. But the main reason we go back again and again is that we like how we feel when we're there. What are you doing that you like who you are in those situations? And so, like, how do you, like, what makes you, like, when do you feel the most like you? Like, what are you doing? So yes, like how we want our life to look and feel, but I just want to take it a step farther. Like, think about the things in your life that when you do them, you are the most you. And so when our family, I'm just giving one example, but when our family is in Italy, we like how we are. We like how we feel. We like how we live in that time there. And it's finding more and more moments like that throughout your day. It's why, like, I wake up and I have I have a routine. I mean, I wake up and I drink my salts and I take a couple of mile walk with Kelly and we talk about the day and, I do my devotions and then I do a bunch of things before I start working because I like how I feel. Those are things that are important to me. And I think it's easy to do a lot of things that are like that other people want you to do, or other people are telling you it's important. Like what do you say is important? What does your partner say is important? What is important for your kids? And it's usually not a lot of that other stuff. And so creating a lifestyle really came about being intentional and saying no to a lot of things. I could have done a lot of things over the years that would have made us a lot more money, that would have been as far away from who I truly am. And another thing that I just believe is that every decision that you say yes to brings you closer or farther away from how you say you want to live. So we are really good with our lips of saying the life we want to live. Our actions are where all the money's at.
How do you know when you're honest with yourself about how you want to live your life? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, it matters. Like, I'm a very in my head kind of person. I'm so in my head that my family knows they just can't come up and like surprise me because I will not hear them coming. I'm just always thinking about things and I really am in my head a lot. And if that is not you, then you might need to be journaling and to keep track of when you feel good. Keep track of and for everything. Hey, there's foods I don't eat, guys, because I don't feel good after I eat them. They might be yummy, but I don't feel good when I do it. Like, our whole life is made of that. And so how do you feel after you take a walk? How do you feel after you take a hike? How do you feel if you haven't moved in a week or two? How do you feel when you get out of your creative space? How do you feel when you make something? How do you feel when you haven't made anything for weeks? Do you notice that maybe you're grumpier or you're like there's something different in you? I've always said like we should all have little post-its. A creative person should have a post-it on their computer that says, if you have not made in XYZ days, go make something. Because it really starts to impact us. It impacts our patience. It impacts like so many parts of who we are. If you are a creative person, which I believe we all are, but there's some of us that literally like the arts is just a part of how you really want to live and breathe. Make sure you're honoring that, whether it's watching a documentary on an artist, reading a book about somebody, just keeping simple tools with you and sketching. There are many times that I can't just be like flinging paint everywhere all day long. You know, that's not how like life is. But there is no reason I can't have a notebook and a pencil. Like, and to do that. And so I would just say start paying attention. And I'm telling you, people in your life do know. All you have to say is, when am I the happiest? When do you know that I am the most genuinely at rest? Like Jack has always said to me when I'm on the Oregon coast, he said, you are the most you. He goes, you are the deep, like the happiest. When you are like in between moody skies, the woods, hiking, the ocean, he said, it's like you're at home. The people in your life know it. They
I
can
love
tell
that.
you.
I love that you ask others because
Mhm.
they may be seeing things that you
Mhm.
aren't recognizing.
Yeah.
And I love that you've created that with all the people that you love too. So
Mhm.
everybody gets a chance to sort through what they want and what makes them happy. And then you're able to meld that as a family.
Yeah.
One of the things that I mean, I loved following your story about the houses. You know, it's like I have something to announce, you know, and we're all on the edge of our, you know, checking again to see if you've posted anything else on there. When you talk about creating kind of these layers and evaluating things, it's 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 a living, breathing thing.
Mhm.
How do you continue to allow it to evolve and
Mhm.
start letting go some of the things that were the most
Mhm.
important a couple of
Mhm.
years ago?
Mm-hmm. No, it's a really good question. And like, I think I would start it off with recently, Kelly and I flew just for 24 hours to celebrate our friend Jan's 70th birthday party. We were barely going to be there. We are flying in the day of the party. Like the ocean is Kelly and my like favorite place. Like we love the ocean so much. So we're driving around Newport trying to find like a parking spot, which is impossible. Like you cannot find any place to park. We just wanted to walk down to the ocean and sit for like 30, 45 minutes. And we might have had an hour if we would have found a parking place. And so it's like 20 minutes go by, 30 minutes go by, 45 minutes go by. It's literally almost an hour of driving up and down streets trying to find any place. And we finally found a parking space. And then I think we sat at the beach for like 30 minutes, for the best 30 minutes ever. And then we had to go back and get ready for this party. And I said to Kel, if we didn't both love the ocean so much, this would have been a problem. Like nobody wants to sit in the car, right? I told him, I said, if you had been wanting to drive around Newport for an hour to find a parking space to take me because you wanted to go to a die cast store, I would have been like, what? You know, like get me out of here. If I would have been like, I've got to go to this bookstore. I mean, yes, there are times when you'll do that for another person, but my point is like, because we both love the ocean so much that we just kept trying. Like, let's like, no, go down that street, or maybe, you know, like go try this one. It matters. It matters that you're aligned. It matters that you want the same things. We're very different, but at the core, what do we want for our kids? What do we want for our family? What do we want for our future? What do we want for our business? And so like the other day I listened to this it was just this little tiny clip. I was listening to Steve and Brooke of Patina Meadow. They're from Patina Farm. They had lived in Ojai, and they had a beautiful farm in Ojai called Patina Meadows. And many books they've used that as a base for many of their books, and just gorgeous gardens. He's an architect, and they also do stunning garden plans. And when they left California to move to Tennessee, it was very hard for people to understand, why would you leave that? How could you leave that? That's people's end goal. Now, I'm not going to be comparing like what we were selling or we are selling compared to like what they left, but you'll see the similarities. And Steve was talking about, people are so surprised that they would start over, in Tennessee and start a new home and have new gardens. And what he said, I thought was so wise. He said, you have to create such a compelling vision of the future that it overcomes the fear of change.
Wow.
And so for every single time that Kelly and I have asked the kids to give up something, or we've said like, we're going to change this, or we're going to move, or like, what do you guys think of this? We really have come, and I said to Kel, that's so true. That's what we've done, is we've said, here's the vision of where we're going, or what we want to do. And it's very hard for other people. I think that's why too, when you have big decisions to make, don't tell other people. Don't go ask everybody else's opinion. Even if this is in your business, or you have a new idea for something, you want to write a book, you have a new art series you want to do, like, don't be showing everybody. Just get in your studio and do it. And also, when it comes to life changes, nobody else has to live it but you and your family. And so, like, and for me, like, like, I'm a Christian. So for me, it was like, I wanted to be prayerful about this. Like, it was, to me, I felt like it was between us, God, and like our kids. And that's it. We didn't ask other people their opinion. And even when we started to share, like, even like some of my own family members are like, this doesn't make sense. Why? Like, this is the end goal. This is people's end goal. Like, that house, and like, and I have to tell you, you can start listening to the things that the world tells you is an end goal when it's not your end goal. I mean, because we pull up to that house and we had put in a beautiful gate, and you have a beautiful long driveway, and you have 6.5 acres, and I have a 1,200 square foot studio and a beautiful home that's been in magazines and trails. And if I let the outside come in, because that wasn't my end goal, I was super content and happy there, and I would have stayed there for forever. I mean, everything we were doing was to stay there. We planted trees for grandkids to have, tree houses. Like, the plan was to stay there. But then when it changed, it was like just holding things loosely and be like, okay, well, what could be different? How could the vision be different than we thought it was? And so, but it's having everybody that matters in on it, and nobody who doesn't have to live with the consequences. They're not included.
Oh, I love that. I know my sister just made a big decision recently, and it was like that same thing that you're talking about. If she would have talked to a number of us, even in the family,
Yeah.
we would have said, "Are you really sure that you want to do that?"
Yeah.
And it honestly, stepping back, it was a beautiful decision for herself. She needed to make it. It feeds her, and it will make her life so different in really creative ways. And so I just admired her taking that courage to leap when she knew it was right for her.
Yeah. Well, because for
So,
us, travel is really important.
mhm.
And for us also, like, I mean, I really love design. And I feel like I have just a really fun opportunity to take this house and do to this house in a different way what we did to the last one. The last one didn't look like that when we bought it, and so to be able to do that again creatively is extremely inspiring. It also gives us an opportunity to like have a house at the ocean. It also like allows us some other things and so when we shared the things with the kids of vision, this is what we want to do. This is the places that we want to go. These are the places we still want to go as a family. And we think we can do more to make our life how we want it to look and feel. And these are the places we actually like, we love doing these things and we love doing these things as a family. What do you guys think?
What did you let go of to take this next big step?
Um, we let go of parking spaces. Um, had a lot of parking. I let go of just a real, we let go of things being in order. Like everything was kind of in order. Things in even my natural rhythm, we'll find our way back there. But like this has been a weird summer. I mean, I don't remember a summer where I'm not in the garden. Um, we're not like we don't even have plans yet. Like we don't have like anything done. So this was a summer of no garden. This was a summer of no routine in certain ways that I'm used to. I would say we let go of order. Yeah, because my studio right now is still boxes. Because like we haven't found the right furniture pieces and we haven't like, I mean, it is living in a little bit of chaos sometimes, which is not easy for me. I'm a very orderly person and I like things put away and I like things done and so this has just been also good for us because it's not a house that you just come in and say we're gonna tear all this out and we're gonna do this is we have to be thoughtful and we have to really sit with things and you want to find the right things because this house is also smaller. It means you want to choose really differently there too. So we let go of I think you let go of what you know. I still feel like I'm in like a cool Airbnb house. Like I still feel like, it doesn't, I don't know it yet. And it feels new and it feels like you're making do, but you haven't started making it your own yet in some of those ways. And so, and a really large studio that you could do anything. And I think part of what this next season is us a pulling back as a family. We have been as a family opening our home for 9 years. As a family, like we did that. And I think this season is to cocoon, is to come in. This space is just for us now. It's not like, not that we won't have friends over and stuff, but it's not the same. Like there won't be workshops here. It's very different. And so, even the other day I was in, Trader Joe's and I walked past the figs and normally we're making like fig salads and things in the summer. And I was like, that's weird. Like, you just look at the figs. I'm like, we're not making anything for anybody this summer. Like we didn't make quinoa salad or we didn't put charcuterie boards together or we didn't make, I mean, it's and it's not bad. It's just different.
Different. So it's somewhat of a blank palette now,
Mm-hmm.
which
Mm-hmm.
really offers some amazing opportunities. So let's talk a little bit more about the art component of that. So when I think of you and your houses, I think of these beautiful vintage pieces that carry stories with them. I'm noticing the art behind you, and I know you already have art in the house. How do you approach finding the art that's going to fit into those spaces and the benches and
Mm-hmm.
just those different pieces that slowly rebuild things. I know you're carrying quite a few over, but how do you approach adding to that?
Well, I think first and foremost is let the house kind of tell you. Like let your space, things that worked in the other house, I'm like, it's just not gonna work here. Um, But then other pieces, they're like, oh, it was this feels like it's at home in this house more than it was there. I think time. Like, I just think, like, just go slow. Just go slow on choosing those kinds, choosing pieces. I think there's a really big push for people to instantly have this instant Instagram worthy perfect little, like, everything looking beautiful. And I would just say, just take a deep breath, trust your gut on what you think is beautiful. And I think like my friend Alexis is a designer, and she always said, leave walls blank until, like, don't be in a rush. Because blank walls, if you have blank walls in your house, it means you have something fun to search for. And that's really true. I mean, there were still blank walls in the other house just waiting for a specific piece that we hadn't found yet. And so it kind of gives you something fun to be looking for. And I don't know, like, give me more of a, like, your question here. Is there more that you're asking that I'm missing?
So what I'm interested in learning is, I mean, clearly, Artburst hosts online art shows
Mhm.
with incredible artists. So how do you know a piece is right for you? So if somebody is coming in on one of our shows and just getting introduced to an amazing artist, um, and we have 200 pieces up on
Yeah.
on the virtual wall. When do you know in your heart that that piece was created for you?
I think it's maybe a little different for me because I don't actually like most things.
Mhm.
So I think for me, I don't like most things. So if something stops me, I'm gonna like, and I'm gonna stop and look at it. But I also think too, to collect art, I feel like, as like Kelly and I, we collect art. That's what I would say. And I would say we're looking for a variety. I want a lino print. I want a lithograph. I want a sculpture. I want something on canvas. I'm very I want it to be a mix of textures and art techniques to make the house great. Because I think if I just had all portraits of women on canvas all throughout my house, it might be really great, but it's not going to be as interesting to me or for anybody else in that space. So I would suggest, like, just think about, like, where we put our spoon while we're cooking is a ceramicist, like something they made. So I'm looking for things that I'm going to use that are going to be beautiful. I have a pottery piece I hold my vegetables in. I'm looking for usable pieces that are works of art. But I'm also looking for art that is in different textures. So on wood, on canvas, linos, and trust yourself. Like, if you're somebody who really says, I don't know what I like, you do. You just maybe haven't given yourself. So it goes back to even like that journal. Start paying attention to yourself. Maybe you haven't been told that you have a good eye. Maybe you haven't been told that you have good taste. Maybe because that's relative. Like, somebody could come in my house and be like, I hate all of your artworks of art, right? But if I trust myself and what that I love it. So first of all, like, you do have a palette. You do have a color palette you love. Start paying attention to what stops you. Start paying attention to what kind of art you like. Do you like abstract? Do you like something that's extremely realistic? Do you love photography? If you like sculpture, what kind of sculpture? I'm promising you, you have beautiful taste for you. Like, it's the only, and to trust yourself. And just because somebody has maybe said something to you and that the truth is, I don't think you just like everything. I think you are probably just like me, that you don't like most things, and trust yourself. So that also means once you start trusting yourself, you have no problem blending something from the mid-century to something that's, that you have no idea how old it is, to something modern, and just start. The biggest thing I would say to people that are even starting to collect, when you travel, like even everything that you see back here, this is from Normandy. This is a lithograph from Bellagio. And this is also a lithograph from outside of Florence that I found in Arezzo. And I think travel helps you to gather really interesting pieces. Trust yourself that if you love it, you can find a place in your home for it. But I think to leave your walls empty and give yourself a reason to walk into that art gallery, or give yourself a reason to go onto Artburst and look at, what do they have, what artists, and trust yourself. If it stops you, like trust that first nudge that there might be something there for you.
Mm, I love that. Now let's talk about your art. So what are you doing right now? I was fascinated by the studies that you're doing now and how that's how you're sending that out into the world.
I think for me right now, because my studio was, I mean, we sold every table, chair, piece of furniture. We donated all the extra art supplies for like workshops to an art school here. And so when we moved, my studio still, like, only parts of it is set up. And it'll be fine. It'll be great for making large works and things like that, once it's clean. And so it was for me like, okay, how do I create in this time of transition? How do I still make room for, that I'm an artist and that I need to make, or I'm not me, and I don't like how I feel when I'm not creating. And so a lot more has happened in smaller spaces. It's happened in sketchbooks, it's happened with simple tools, it's happened with graphite and watercolor. And the thing that I think sometimes we forget, and it's been a great summer for me also, that there's a lot of learning about yourself and new marks, small. Some of the things that I'm going to take bigger are because I worked small this summer. And I really kind of like, it's almost like I found some new parts of me. Oh, this is actually new. Like, this is something that I haven't done before. Or this is something I figured out about me. And I can take it larger. And I think too, like, I'm doing a art class next weekend on Zoom. It's all about Turner. Well, he had 300 sketchbooks at the time of his death. He's one of Britain's most beloved landscape painters, painted really large, these really intricate landscapes, but his sketchbooks were feeling. They were capturing an emotion. They're capturing color. And sometimes there's just like very simple swashes of colors. And he always carried a little sketchbook and his portable palette with him wherever he went. And even recently had Helen Frankenthaler, I was doing some reading, and her breakout piece, Mountains and Seas, Seas and Mountains, I think it's Mountains and Seas, in I think 1952, she had seen Pollock's work, super inspired by that. She came into her own studio, and she goes, I don't know if I was lazy, I don't know if I was tired, or if I was just anxious to get started, but she had just been in Nova Scotia doing tons of watercolor studies. She bring that into the studio, and the watercolors and how they move and like the colors, she started pouring down for the first time thinned out oil paint with turpentine, did not prime her canvas, and her breakout piece and her soak stain method, which she was the pioneer of, it came from, yes, seeing Pollock's work and how loose it was, but his was not on unprimed canvas. It was from her sketches. And she came into the studio and she did something brand new. We're all not going to do something brand new, but you can do something brand new for yourself. And so, like, I feel like this summer has been this summer, this long stretch of studies and being present and working small and finding new works. And it has probably saved me in the midst of the disorder, like the disorder of our life and everything. Because when you said what I leave behind, I left behind order.
Yeah.
And I think the sketchbook and watercolors and graphite really helped me stay grounded.
I'm excited to see where that leads you
Me
next.
too. Yeah.
It's going to be a fun journey to watch. I love all of your work. And one of the things that I love about you, and you kind of mentioned it, when you were little, you pulled people together to do different kinds of things. And that theme it's still true today. And one of the most amazing things I think is how you pull us together. Those of us who I remember when I went into Sarah's class, I wasn't sure I should go into it. I'm like, oh, but I'm not an artist. I'm not, I remember having those discussions with her, and she's like, Jennifer, you're an artist. And so there are people, that come in to your classes and your discussions that feel that way. They're at the front end, but there's also people who have a lot of knowledge and experience who are more experienced artists coming in. How do you pull those people together and help them grow at the level that they're at?
Because I think we all, whether you are new and just starting out or you're a long time artist, we're all looking for filling back up, right? So no matter where you are in your skill level. And it's almost the same like when parents ask me, oh, if I was going to put my child into one of your classes, do you have a kids class? And I'm like, don't put them in a kids class, put them in a real class. And they will take out what is good for them at that level. And you could have them take that class every year for 10 years, and you're going to see a different return from that. So I feel like most people, when they come to a live workshop, or they even come to an online workshop, so live or online, they're really coming just to be creative. And they're going to meet whatever you put out at the level that they're at. And I feel like most times people were just thankful that I made. Like I got fed good food and I sat next to great people, and I didn't even, and sometimes people are like, I don't even care what I make. I'm just so glad to be here. I'm glad to like take a couple of hours and get away. And so I feel like you get this wide range of beautiful women of all different maybe skill level, but I feel like we gather the most incredible women of content of character. Content of their heart, how they encourage one another, and they look out for one another, and they stay connected with one another even when things are over. And so I just feel like they are women with a deep desire to live a creative life. And that's who we're gathering. We're gathering people that say, I want to live a life different than people I watch around me. There's a lot of people in our life that are going and living day to day, doing very monotonous things, and filling their days with things that are not filling them back up. Because they think they have to do this and do that other thing, or maybe they need these things in their life, or maybe there's commitments that they feel like they have to say yes to. And I just think the people that have said, yes, I want to be responsible. Yes, I want to like take care of my family. Yes, all these things, but like I really want to take care of this part of how I've been made and that I'm going to honor that. They're different because they see it in other people and they call it out in other people.
So if somebody's interested in getting involved with one of your offerings, how do they do that and what's coming up for them?
Okay, so you can just go to jeanneoliver.com. Thanks for asking. That's so nice. And you're going to be able to see workshops. You're going to be able, they're not going to be at our studio anymore, but I have a lot of things coming up next year abroad, and I have things in 2026 coming up abroad and in the United States. And you're going to be able to find online classes. And we have like over 120 that are instant access. And we have like anything that's new, that's gonna be, you're gonna be able to see that that's new. And so we have Tanner painting skies with Turner, sorry, that is gonna be on Friday. And it's just gonna be watercolors and it's going to be fun. It's gonna be it's really, I think, gonna be just relaxing. It's a very short little mini class. And then the most exciting thing that I'm excited about for a long time, so many people have been asking us, bring back studying under the masters. Like we used to do studying under the masters and we'd have lots of different artists and maybe we do portraits or maybe we would do abstract or whatever we would be doing. And it's going to open on Monday. It's going to be studying under the masters, but it's women of abstract expressionism. There's just 5 women that we've chosen. There's 5 artists studying 5 master abstract expressionists. And so I'm really excited because we haven't had a studying under the masters for a while, for a long while. So I'm very excited to offer that again. And we also have a brand new class that's coming out this month by Jen Wagner, and it is hand lettering. And I don't want anybody to think that it's for digital artists only. The majority of the class is hand lettering. She has 2 bonus episode like lessons that show you easily like how to take that into your art. And how to take it into graphic design or try to into your marketing and using your own hand lettering. So those are the things right now. And then I'm looking forward to getting back into the studio, hopefully this winter, and as things get organized and start creating bigger pieces again.
Oh, that's really exciting. I hope one day to take one of your classes overseas.
Oh,
You
it's
know,
the
to
best.
travel.
It's just the best because there's no distractions and you're just tripping over beauty. Like literally it's everywhere. But I would also say to people, if you're like, I cannot make it, ever to an overseas, or that's just not in the budget, I would really just tell you, step out your front door. Where you live, there's beauty too. And don't just wait for those big trips. But it is fabulous to just see history like that, architecture like that, and to be immersed in it.
Yes. So Maureen says she can't wait for your classes.
Oh, for the studying under the masters, I hope you guys just love it.
I've taken I buy classes, the online classes, and I always learn something amazing. You do an incredible job
Thank
selecting
you.
the artists, and they're always so gracious in sharing all of their information. Jeanne, is there anything else that we didn't cover that you would like to add?
I guess if there's anything that I'd want to close on that would be different is that to honor your creativity because nobody else will do it for you. And one of the things that I think is like so true is that there's certain things that can get your leftovers of your time and energy every day. Like you can send emails tired, you can mow the lawn tired, you can do, laundry and dishes tired. But your creativity, whatever that is, if you're a writer, if you are like a fine artist, if you're a sculptor, if you are like, when you think of where your gifts are, I would say like try to give them the best of your time. Like, and if you can't do that every day, I know sometimes I can't either. Like, set aside a couple of times a week that you say, like, I'm going to give my creativity the best of me today, the best time. And and the other parts of my day can get my leftovers. And it's the same thing for Kelly and his gifts, my kids and theirs. We each are responsible for our own honoring of our gifts. And like I said earlier, we can say with our mouth one thing that we want. I want to be a better artist, or I want to make art more, or I want to go on that trip, or I want to do this or this or this, and our actions. And it really just comes back to us, and we can completely change that. We can completely take, and maybe it starts in little steps. If you want to grow as an artist, sketchbook and a pencil in your bag, and just be looking. Make really bad things. Make really, really bad art. You'll never make good art if you don't make bad art. We know it in our head, but gosh, we hate making ugly things, don't we? Don't we hate, like, no one wants to, like, we want to make a pie for the first time and it wins an award. We hate when it looks disgusting, right? Like we hate going through the practice process of things, but we just don't get better at things unless we do.
It's so true. So I will tell all of you, and you guys have already done it, and that is make sure that you subscribe on Jeanne's website. But I'm guessing all of you are already subscribed. So I'm going to ask you to do something else, another step. Once we have the video recording done, and as I said, I'll go ahead and send that out in the link so you have it. Somebody else needs to hear the wisdom that Jeanne has given us today. And I would ask you to share that far and wide, because you can help build, I don't know, that value that someone has for themselves when they feel like they can reach out and try something new, and to take, step past the fear and get in there and create, and it will open all of these doors. Carolyn says, very inspiring. Sometimes we need reminding. We can give ourselves permission. Thank you, Jeanne. Jeanne, thank you so much for spending this time with us. I know that I am just so encouraged and inspired, which anytime I talk to you, I am. And so it was a wonderful morning. I was so happy that we could spend it together and with all of these amazing creative people as well.
Thanks, everybody.
So we can't wait to see what comes next for you.
Me too.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us this morning. As I said, I have to tell you that Jeanne has been instrumental in a lot of the things that the directions that we've taken with Artburst here. We always so much value her input. And I think, I'm preaching to the choir here, I know. We do Artburst Lives about once a month. If we have a show coming up, then you'll be meeting some of the artists that are in the upcoming show. So we will announce when the next Artburst Live is, and we will send that information to you. Our next show is Fancy That. It opens on November 14th. We have almost 20 brilliant artists who are in the middle of creating their collections now. So make sure that if you haven't already, that you subscribe on the artburststudios.com website so that you can stay in the loop with what we've got coming up. Lucy, always inspiring. Yes, we're always inspired by Jeanne as well. So all of you have a fabulous day, and we look forward to connecting in the future.